Hey guys, it's Landon with topbyasurveyor.org. In this video, we're going to talk about square roots, and I'm going to use square roots to introduce you to the mathematical concept known as irrational numbers. All right, don't freak out. Don't run away screaming. We're going to keep it simple. All right, so if you haven't yet watched the video I did on square roots and squares as a tool in algebra, because you want to know a little bit about square roots before you watch this video. So in this video, we're going to talk about clean square roots, ugly square roots, and then what is this thing known as an irrational number. As you know, mathematicians like to name stuff with hard names because mathematicians like to make math hard for normal people. Okay, so I'm going to give you an easier definition of irrational numbers. Okay, so let's go talk about square roots for a minute. So this is what I call a clean square root. If you can take the square root of a number and get a nice whole number with no fractional part, so what we call an integer or a whole number, that is a clean square root. Okay, we like clean square roots. They're easy. Square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 25 is 5. Those are all clean square roots. Okay, what happens when you try and take the square root of a number like 12? You don't get a nice clean whole number integer. You get some ugly number like this in your calculator, right? 3.464101, da 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 da, and the numbers just keep going, all right? This is what I call an ugly square root, right? Like, who wants to work with that kind of number? That is just ugly, right? But that's the way math works. Some parts of math are beautiful. Some parts of math are ugly. Okay, so that is an ugly square root. That ugly square root is also what we know as an irrational number, or what we call an irrational number in math. Okay, so what is an irrational number? An irrational number is an ugly number with a fractional part that goes on typically forever. Okay, so notice this number has a fractional part here, right? There's some digits besides 0 on the right side of the decimal. And if you did this in your calculator, these numbers just keep going. Right? That is an irrational number. An irrational number is a number that's not evenly divisible in what we call a base 10 or a decimal system. Okay, so another kind of technical definition of an irrational number is it's a number that you can't express as a fraction using whole numbers. Okay, so if we have a number like 5/3, okay, that's going to be a rational number because you can express it as you can express it with whole numbers. So is 3/4. Okay, but if you have a number like 3.261152, that is not a fraction that you can express with two whole numbers like this one, right? So that's the technical definition of an irrational number, but I like my definition bigger. I like it better. It's an ugly number with a fractional part that goes on typically forever, right? Okay, and yeah, most square roots are irrational numbers. So there's way more square roots that are ugly than there are square roots that are clean, right? So there's a lot of irrational numbers in square roots. Okay, there are other irrational numbers in mathematics. Pi, the number pi, is an irrational number. There is a special number called Euler's constant, or E, the little letter E, that is also an irrational number. There are other special irrational numbers in mathematics. Okay, when we get into trig functions, the solution to most trig functions are going to be irrational numbers. They're not going to be nice, clean, even, nice, clean whole numbers or integers. They're going to be irrational numbers. And so in mathematics, we have to deal with irrational numbers. Now, why is that, think about that for a minute. Why is that important? It teaches us something really important about math. Most people think that math is great because you can get, there's no wrong answer. Math is always exact, right? What irrational numbers teach us is math is not always exact. Sometimes math is fuzzy. Sometimes we have to approximate the correct answer. In other words, we can never get. So go back to the square root of 12, right? Like you could run that number out 100 decimal places, right, and not get the exact answer to the square root of 12. Same thing with pi. You could run pi out 1,000 decimal places and not have the exact value for pi, right? We can only get a fuzzy approximation of a lot of numbers in mathematics, right? A lot of square roots. We can only approximate them. In other words, we can only get a guess and then a slightly better guess and then a slightly better guess than the last guess, right? And at some point, that guess, the approximation, the fuzzy number is good enough for the math we're trying to do, right? And so that's something a lot of people don't think about when they think about math. You know, usually people think about math, think, oh, math is not fuzzy, it's black and white. There's a right answer and a wrong answer. That's not always true. A lot of math is fuzzy, right? And so you should take some comfort in that because I take comfort in it, right? Because it means math isn't as rigid as we think. And, you know, the universe is complicated. And even something like mathematics doesn't always follow black and white exact rules. So kind of an interesting thing. Irrational numbers are an example of that. And we'll talk some more about irrational numbers when we get in and do a couple of videos about trig functions and the solutions to trig functions when we're working with trigonometry and angles. And there you go. Now you know about square roots and ugly square roots, and you know what an irrational number is. Thank you for watching. We will catch you on our next Taught by a Surveyor video.